Hi guys, Sailing Prepper here. Okay, so today we're going to talk about real racism. Not this fake stuff they're talking about. And we're going to do some comparisons between Trump and Biden. Okay? And real Nazism. When the Charlottesville incident happened, Donald Trump went on, as some of you probably remember, went on social media and on the news, and all he did was defend their right for freedom of speech. Now, the left used to say this, but apparently they don't anymore, which is, I may disagree with your opinion, but I'll fight for your right to say it. And that's what a lot of Americans have forgotten today. This is what our soldiers used to fight for, one of them, or what they believed they were fighting for. May disagree with your opinion, but they'd fight for your right to say it. Okay? Now, that's kind of gone out the window in the last year, especially since Biden's come into office, with all the censorship. Now, going past that, there will be links to a whole bunch of stuff if I can get it to work. If I can't, sorry, there won't be, but if I can, there will be links on the bottom of this, in at least my YouTube one. I don't know about Rumble. But needless to say, with this, you also have the thing that about, I forgot how many months ago it was, but where Donald Trump actually wanted to stop sending money to the Ukraine. Okay? Now, remember that every Democrat, okay, and most of the Republicans, if not all of them, and most of the Democrats, if not all, and Biden was one of them, who threw a fit about him canceling money away from that. Here's the thing. He was canceling their military funding. Now, if you look at Ukraine's policies, Ukraine's political, and Ukraine's military, a very large percentage of that believes in Nazi policies. To the point where you actually have people in their military openly preaching Hitler's policies. They carry, in their ranks, they carry Nazi paraphernalia, books. Some of their military patches are from the alt-right. So when I say military Nazis in an entire country, we're talking about the Ukraine. That's a fact. Okay, and I'll try to put links towards this. If you can't find it, the links, because I have trouble putting them on, well, just look up Nazi, put the word Nazi in and put Ukraine in, and you'll find it on YouTube. So, this is actually a fact. So if you think about it, the Democrats and the Republicans have straight out promoted, financially pushed for a country that supports Nazism. Okay? Military that supports Nazism in Ukraine. Now, they did that because they want to go against Russia so badly that they'll actually sign up or take sides with people that actually believe in destroying people of other races and religions. Okay, actually doing what Hitler tried to do. Okay? And that is Ukraine. Okay? That is most of Ukraine. That's not everybody in Ukraine, but that is most of Ukraine. They do that. So if you actually think about it, when somebody compares everything that's being done today with the Nazis of the alt-right, they're really not that far off. Okay? That woman that did that Star Wars thing that got fired for it, comparing them, she was making a legitimate comparison. Alright? You really do, if you think about it, it is legitimate. One of the things Hitler did was he stumbled free or stifled most of freedom of speech. If you don't have two sides of something to argue with, then you're just saying one side's all right and perfect and the other side isn't. That leads to things that happened in World War II. That's how that began. That's one of the main things that began, was the hate propaganda by individuals, and that's how they actually were capable of doing that. I do believe that this is going to go into a form of Nazism. They won't call it that, they'll call it something else, and they'll use the old-fashioned McCarthyism. Remember, these were things in the past that we frowned upon. Okay, whether it was in another country or our own, we frowned upon it as a bad thing, and now the United States is implementing them again. Or we didn't implement Nazism, but now we're starting to. We did it a little bit, and in another video I will get into that with the Condor, Operation Condor, where they actually hired Nazis. And some of you guys might not like to hear what I'm going to say about Operation Condor. So, with that, just do your comparisons. Okay, you have our government is doing things right now to basically control people. When they start coming after the boomsticks, even though I'm not too concerned about boomsticks personally, a lot of you are. That is a way to defend yourself against the government. And it is a way to actually form a militia. Now they go after the people that did what I consider their Second Amendment rights when they stormed the Capitol. Regardless if you think they were good or bad, they were performing and succeeding their Second Amendment right. If what they say is true, that was supposed to be an attack on the White House, that's what the Second Amendment is for. Okay, they did a really poor job of doing it. There was nothing tactical or thought out about it. And they could have done a better job, but I'm not defending them in the fact of was it right or was it wrong. I'm just stating that what they did was their Second Amendment right, and that's what the Second Amendment is actually for. It is for people to actually rise up against the government, which is illegal in every aspect, no matter what country you're in. It was illegal when we fought for our independence, hence the phrase. The forefathers actually put that in there in case we had to use that, but it would still be considered illegal with the regular government. So yes, do they want to abolish the Second Amendment? Obviously, or at least stifle it until they can abolish it. Because then they can say it was completely illegal. But that, if you really think about it, it doesn't matter what they do with the Second Amendment, as long as people have the First Amendment. And once they stifle the First Amendment, then the Second Amendment is really in trouble, and so does your ability with that. If they left well enough alone and actually acted like government should, we wouldn't be having all these problems. We really wouldn't. If they put the interest of the people above the interest of their corporate leaders, which are really who controls the government, we wouldn't have all these problems. People say slavery was abolished. Well, I'm going to tell you slavery was never abolished. Okay? I believe it's the 14th Amendment that did slavery abolishment. Well, one, there's a stipulation in there, if you go to prison, you can be considered a slave. And another thing is these corporations use slavery, child slavery, legitimate slavery abroad. One of the things that recently came out was the chocolate industry's been using child slavery. So every time you eat a candy bar, remember, cocoa bean was probably picked by some kid that's an actual full-on slave. Okay? In Africa, where they're actually doing this, this is all presented by these corporations. They're not going to get fined. They're not going to be come after with our government. There's nothing going to happen to them, and even if they do get a fine, it's going to be minuscule. And this is for the torture, kidnapping, and brutal use of children in child labor. We're talking about 12, 13-year-olds that are forced to actually go out in fields and barely get fed, sleep on the ground, do all of those things so that you can have your cocoa or your chocolate bar. Remember that when you eat chocolate, because that's what they're doing. And that's not the only thing they do that with. They do that with a lot of things. But our politicians will not get involved in that. Like, they don't get involved in a lot of things unless it actually deals with the destruction of the American dollar or messes with any of the corporates. See, it has to actually mess with corporations. That's why we went to Iraq. Initially, the issue was going after bin Laden. But in the reality, we went to Iraq for money. And all of those illegal acts that we perform over there, and the entire involvement in the Middle East is illegal. And that is no joke, because the House and Senate never voted on going to war, which in our own Constitution deems it illegal. Biden, who's outright admitted that he took part in the 9/11 act, terrorist thing that they put out there, which stifled us to an extension. Now that he's president and they're talking about doing one for regular Americans, well, he actually is the one who wrote that act, and he wanted it in the 90s, and then he later on helped with the 9/11 one, which is very similar. This has done nothing but take away our freedoms. He voted for people to go and lied to the American people to go to war in an illegal war. Yeah, guys, he's as crooked as it gets. Biden actually put an act, I believe in the 90s or the 80s, I can't remember when he put it in, that actually put more African Americans in prison. Yeah. Think about that. All his policies are extremely racist. So when they go against Trump as a racist, or say that Trump supporters are racist, Biden's acts, I mean, some of Trump's comments might be off color, but Biden may not do the off-color comments, but his acts are more racist than anything you ever could dream of. The famous words, Jesse Ventura, when the government lies, the truth becomes a traitor. Sailing Prepper, signing out.